Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Alrighty, you guys. 40 days of love. We're out here. We're only at 10 more days. Today is day 30. Can y'all believe we made it this far? I can't believe it. Well, I can't believe it, but y'all, we made it this far. Look at God. All right, look at the Lord. He wants us all to be blessed. He wants our marriages to be better. It is his intent for us to have the best marriages. Now we have to get into agreement with that. So, all right, here we are. Day 30. I was prepping ahead for day 31. Y'all let me know where you're chiming in from. I'm so excited that more people have been chiming in. I'm glad to have you. I hope that you're getting something from our time together. I know it can be a challenge to reevaluate your marriage. I know it can be a challenge to reevaluate yourself because all of us want to think we're better than we are, myself included. Because again, I scored a 800 and something out of 1,000 points. But that's me judging myself on how I would respond, but I don't have a man, right? So I don't know how I would respond or not. Hey, Miss Sue, good to see you. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Let me know where you're chiming in from. So again, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm just saying that I've learned a lot over the years. I've learned the things not to do. And I pray that I wouldn't do things that would first of all, dishonor the Lord, dishonor my husband, dishonor myself. And I want to have a phenomenal marriage. I don't want to have a good marriage. I don't want to have an okay marriage. I want to have a phenomenal. People ask me, how did you get to this space type of marriage? Like that's honestly where I want to be in my marriage. And I think we all can be. I think it does require some work up front. And I think it does require continual maintenance, right? Someone mentioned last night about the fact that her and her husband were kind of having some issues with the empty nest. If you don't have continual maintenance in your childbearing, child raising years, you will have struggle when the nest empties out. And I know all of us want to, focus on our kids and focus on, their raising and all that. And I think we should, but I don't think we sacrifice our spouse for our children, which is what some people do when they totally ignore their spouse for 18 years. That's just not, the husband should be just as involved in the raising of the children as the wife. It shouldn't be just the wife. The mom does have that nurturing period, especially if she nurses and all that kind of stuff. But the husband should definitely be in there helping to support. Excuse me. I'm sorry, y'all. To support and raise that child. And that's just how parenting should work. And we find ourselves in tenuous situations in our marriage when we don't evaluate, self-reflect, pay attention, and all those types of things. So day 30, which is today. You're there for today. Isolate one area of division in your marriage and pray about it. This was Love Brings Unity. Ask the Lord to reveal anything in your heart that is threatening oneness in your marriage. Pray that he would open up the communication lines so that you can find more agreement and stay on the same page. And if appropriate, discuss this matter openly, seeking God for unity. So what is an area? What is a place? What is a conversation? What is something that causes disunity in your marriage? And it can be a myriad of things. It can be intimacy. It can be finances. It can be religion. It can be children, especially if you have a blended family. It could be exes. It could be friends. It could be work, where you work too much or you don't work enough. It could be, it could be all manner of things. And what you have to do, I believe, is have what someone mentioned to me once. That's called a courageous conversation. Like, I've got to be brave enough to come to you and say, hey, this is where I am. This is what I think. This is what I feel. And I just need you to be aware. And we probably, possibly, I'm almost for sure, might need to take some moments and work ourselves through this situation. And again, that's why I said it's so vital and so important that we all have a plan for our family. You need a family plan. It's vital. It's important. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to text my son something to help me real fast. So it's vital and it's important. And I think that we need to, even though it's February already, and you might not have done it, is still time. We're not even in the, near the end of the first quarter of the year. You still have time, but it's hard to believe it's already February the 3rd, y'all. Wow. You need to sit down with your spouse and you need to come up with a plan. And here's the thing, because your spouse may not be receptive right now, if they're not receptive, guess what you do? You do the plan and you put it together for the family. You may have to be the person on the wall right now, and close the closet as well today. You might have to be the person on the wall that is doing the majority of the work right now. Again, we're trying to restore the relationship. And that's okay. It may not be like this always. And we're thankful for that, right? So very good. Okay, we're moving into day 31, y'all. Day 31 is tomorrow. That means we are on the downswing now. Here's the thing. So day 31 is Tuesday. Day 32 is the day that we want to talk a little bit about intimacy. So we are going to talk about it, but there's a private session for all the women who want to join the private session where I'll talk a little bit more in detail. That's just a Google Meet or like a Zoom call. I won't do that on this larger platform, but I will do it in a smaller place. If you want to be a part of that, and that's going to be on Wednesday at 8. We'll do it before this meeting because I don't want you all to have to meet at 10. We'll do it at 8. And Wednesday's my birthday. So yay us, right? So if you want to be a part of that, what I need you to do is send me an email or a DM with your email so I can send you a link. You'll need a link to join. If nobody wants to do it, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to be involved in that private chat session for the ladies, then if you will just send me an email at firstloveministriesswilson@gmail.com, or if you will send me a DM. So if you want to join, send it to this email. This right here just has my email on it. firstloveministriesswilson@gmail.com if you want to be a part of that. No problem if you don't. It's perfectly fine. We're not going to discuss anything too over the top, but sometimes they're just, people want to have an open conversation and things they have never asked before or things they don't know or aren't aware of. And so I want to leave space for that, but I don't want to do it on this broad platform. So anywho, that's that. Very good. Now I've been on here for 30 days, 30 straight days. Well, I missed one day, 30 days. And then I play the replay for one. And I don't typically tend to do this, but if anybody wants to bless the ministry, you may do so by doing CashApp or PayPal. You don't have to bless us. God blesses us always. But if you've gleaned something from this, I believe sowing seeds are important. I'm just putting that out there. I very rarely do I ask for people to, I'm not asking, I'm just saying if you want to, you can. If not, do not feel away. We're going to be all right. Okay, we're moving into day 31, which is tomorrow. And again, I do hope that as you've gone through, like your questions yesterday was, did the Lord open your eyes to anything new that might be giving fuel to the point of disagreement? And if so, how do you intend to respond? And what do you hope to see God do in your spouse as well? We all have hopes and dreams and wishes and goals and things that we want God to do for us. And most times we want God to do for our spouse. We think we're perfect again, and we're not. But what is it that you're hoping that God will do? Because God he will do what he says he's going to do for all of us. We got to do our part. The Bible says he is a rewarder of them who diligently seek him. And so make sure you're diligently seeking him. And God's going to do his part. Day 31, which is today. Oh, here's something else. Another one of the people who did the dare said, I want my children to know how great marriage can be when God is in the center of it. That was Lisa. So every so often he will sprinkle in different testimonials from people that have done the love dare. I'm sure over the years there have been more that have come in, but that was from Lisa. So day 31 is another attention day. The title of day 31 is Love and Marriage. Love and Marriage. I do think I'm tired today, y'all. I really do. Simply because I've been up doing a lot of stuff and not sleeping well. That's okay. I drink a lot of water during the day, and so I'm up all night going to the bathroom. Anywho, love and marriage. It is an attention day. So yesterday, I believe, was an attention day. Today is another attention day. And it is one of those days where you have to pay attention. You have to be diligently monitoring the things that are happening in your sphere and in your sphere of influence and around you. Right? You got to keep eyes open. You got to always be attentive. You got to know what's happening and what's going on. Because if you don't, you are in jeopardy of slipping, and your marriage is going to be the downfall. So let me go into the source verses. Your source verses is Philippians 2:4, James 1:19 and 20, Proverbs 24:3 and 4, and Ephesians 5:33. So let me grab my Bible app and I'll read those. It's always good to know what the word says. And since I'm here at Ephesians 5:33, I'll just start there. So every married man should be gracious to his. Let me read it in the New King James, maybe, or the Amplified. I'll read it in the Amplified Classic. That might help some of us a little bit better. However, let each man of you, without exception, so everybody, nobody is exempt from this, without exception. This is the Amplified Classic. Love his wife as being, in a sense, his very own self. And let the wife see that she respects and reverences her husband, that she notices him, regards him, honors him, prefers him, venerates him, and esteems him, and that she defers to him, praises him, and loves and admires him exceedingly. That was Ephesians 5:33. Proverbs, well, we go to Philippians 2:4 since I'm already close. Philippians 2 verse 4 says, let each of you esteem and look upon and be concerned for not merely your own interests, but also each for the interests of others. James 1:19 and 20, since I'm this far. James chapter 1:19 and 20. Understand this, my beloved brethren. Let every man be quick to hear, a ready listener, slow to speak, and slow to take offense and to get angry. For man's anger does not promote the righteousness God wishes and requires. Y'all, I had a day. And I found myself getting more and more frustrated. And so what I did was I just got up from a place and walked out, went back to my office and sat down. I said, I just need a minute because I can't understand what's going on right now. So again, quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get offended, because offenses are everywhere. And if we want to, we can take them. We can have them at every single turn. And I am determined in my life to not be offended by people, by things. It does happen, but I quickly get myself back on track. I ask the Lord to forgive me for being upset, and I get back to what I'm supposed to be doing. Proverbs 24 Proverbs 24, verses 3 and 4 say, through skill and godly wisdom is a house, a life, a home, a family built, and by understanding it is established on a sound and good foundation. And by knowledge shall its chambers of every area be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. There's not any place, any area of your marriage that should not be filled with pleasant riches. All of it, every single area should be thriving in your marriage. And again, that just comes from paying close attention to your spouse, to your surroundings, to who's in your ear, to what you're looking at, to where you're going, to who you're hanging around, to whom which you are getting counsel from. I think it is very, very, I have questions when married people only have single friends. Where are your married friends? Where are the people who are going through the same things you're going through at the moment? Where are those people that you can get good godly counsel from and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going through in my marriage? Because the moment you start telling your friends that and they're single, their response is going to be, well, if you wasn't married, you wouldn't be having them problems. And so now we're leaning towards if you weren't married. No. And I'm not saying you can't have single friends. I have married friends and I am not married, but they never come to me with their marriage problems. I mean, they don't. I know certain things, but they don't come to me with their marriage problems, right? I don't think they devalue me, but they would say, well, Shakema, you're not married and you haven't been married for 15 years. Right? So why would you keep hanging around single friends? I think there are questions when you're of one gender and all of your friends are the opposite gender. I'm not saying you can't have opposite gender friends. I'm saying when every friend you have is a woman and you a man and y'all like boys and homies and y'all been down forever, I think I got questions, but that's just me. We're moving into day 31. And listen, today is going to be one of those hard days. And I'm going to need for you to lean in. I'm going to need for you to really keep your ears open. And I'm going to need for you to promise not to be upset with me. Because this is one of those days that you're really going to get, if you're going to get mad, this is the one. Genesis 2:24 says, and a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. He says in the book on page 151 that this is God's blueprint for marriage. One man, one woman equals one. Together, unity, togetherness, unity, harmony, all that. One man and one woman. That's what he established at creation in Genesis 2:24. It was verified by Jesus, Mark 10:6-9, and clarified by the Apostle Paul in Ephesians 5:31. But for it to work as designed, it requires a tearing away and a knitting together, right? For marriage to work appropriately, it requires a tearing away and a knitting together. So just this past May, it's not been quite a year, my daughter got married. And she married my son-in-law, Keith, and I love him to all the top. I love him to the heaven. I love him to the moon. I love him backwards 3 times. I love Keith. Now, when I say that, let me qualify this. I don't know him extremely well. I mean, I know him for the last 3 years that he's been in our life, but it's not like we talk all the time. It's not like, we have a family group chat and all the kids are in there and Keith as well. And so that's how we communicate. But I love my son-in-law because he loves my daughter. My affection, my heart towards him comes from an overflow of prayers that I've prayed for my daughter for many, many years, that she would find someone to take care of her when I was unable to. And so the Lord blessed that situation. Now, one of the things that I can say is my daughter and I have been through a lot of situations together just by sheer knowing how she was conceived and all of that. If you've heard any of my story, and if you haven't, just go scroll through my page and see all the posts. You'll find it. Her birthday's coming up. There'll be another post on her birthday. You'll see all those things. So our situation it was complicated, and for a long time it was just her and we were together, and then I met my husband at the time, and it was just us for a long time, and then I had other children. With that being said, being the primary voice in her life for a long time, thank you so much. It could be a challenge for me to release her into the freedom of her marriage, right? Because for a very long time, I was who she went to when things were bad. I was who she came to when she needed a listening ear. I was who she came to when she needed comfort, or she needed somebody to just, to vent to or whatever. When she got married, my role in her life changed. It changed when she got grown, but it definitely changes when she becomes married. She no longer lives under the authority of me. She now lives under the authority of her husband. She lives under his authority, his protection. He's responsible for her, for everything that happens here forward from the day and the moment they said we do. There was a tearing away from mom or mom and dad, and there was a cleaving to the husband. That is according to Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. And likewise for this shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. Because when you have so many people involved in your marriage, who are you really married to? I was watching something the other day. Y'all know I be scrolling. I was scrolling through TikTok. I think it was something I'm scrolling. And this mom shows up at her son's girlfriend's job just to see if she had a job. And so I think she was a dental hygienist or something like that. She comes to the job, and the girl brings her in a room, and she's like, "Is there something wrong? Can I help you?" She was like, "No, I was just checking to see if you had a job." And the girl was so confused. She was like, "Well, I said, I did tell you I had a job, right?" She was like, "But I don't think that's any of your business." Then the mom was like, but it is. And so a lot of parents, moms tend to be the ones, are very forceful in their sons' lives. We're very hands-on. We don't want to let hands off. And so here we are. Now this man is fully married, and we're still trying to be his mother. And we don't respect his wife. We don't want the wife to be anywhere around. I see plenty of people. Moms got keys to the house, cooking food, just all up in people's houses when they ain't even home. Your role has changed. I'm never going to be able to cleave to my husband, to learn how to run to him when there are issues instead of running to my dad if my dad is always there. If he's always present and available, and I don't even have to talk to my husband. Well, is anything wrong? No, babe, I called dad and he fixed it. What exactly am I for if your dad's going to fix everything? What exactly am I here for if your mom's going to come over and make all your meals? So this becomes a great issue or problem in marriages when they do not leave and cleave. When mom, for heaven forbid, lives in the house with you. I believe that anybody who wants to get married should be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Do not ask me, can you marry somebody and then move into my house? You may not. Because you're not married. You're not ready to be married if you got to move her in with me. Because it's my house and I'm going to have my say. And nobody is going to be more important in my house than me. Do you see how that can be now contentious? And so what needs to happen is, before you get ready to marry somebody, make sure you got all your little ducks lined up so that you can move on out. Take all your stuff. Don't leave nothing at my house. I got to go to my mama's and get something. Take all your stuff. And parents, it's most important for us to really respect that relationship. He says in the book, during this section, he says parents now become we fall into the role of counselor. We now become the role of advisor, but we're no longer the authority figure in that person, in our child's life. And that is for a reason, because they're going to have to learn how to lean and depend and trust their spouse. Because when something comes that's a heavy situation, that's who they're going to turn to. That's who they should turn to. I can be their support. I can be there to do what I need to do. But at the end of the day, you're married to that person. Nobody's going to ask me what I think, what I want. I don't get a voice or a say. If something were to happen to my daughter at this very moment, do you not know they're not going to call me? I am technically no longer her next of kin. Her husband is. So I don't get a voice. I don't get a say. Now, because I love my son-in-law and he loves me and we have a very good relationship, I believe he would call me and say, hey, this is a situation. This is what we going through. You got anything you want to, whatever. But even if he doesn't, I don't have a right to be upset. I don't have a right to be mad. I have released her into the freedom of this marriage with someone that I felt very sure was going to take care of her when he asked for her hand in marriage. And he did call me and ask me. And I thought, oh my goodness, well, that's lovely. I don't know if he called her dad or not, but he called me and asked me. And I was so ready for them to live their lives and do all of the things. And it was so good. He says, but for marriage to work as it was required, it is as it was designed, it requires a tearing away and a knitting together. It reconfigures existing relationships while establishing a brand new one. Mine and my daughter's relationship are very different now that she's married. She goes to Keith for money. She goes to Keith for comfort. She goes to Keith for loving. She goes to Keith for whatever she needs. Keith is first. If she invites me into the conversation, I'm happy about it. If she doesn't, it's none of my business. And I think one of the things about parenting adult children is you have to prepare yourself for them to leave you. You have to prepare yourself for them to leave and cleave. You have to prepare yourself for them to move out of the nest. And that could be hard for some of us that don't have any life. Well, what you mean, Shakema? You don't have any hobbies. You don't have any friends. You don't have anything outside of your husband and your children. And really, you just keep the husband because he's in the house, but your children are your primary thing. You at dance, you at gymnastics, you at taekwondo, you at music lessons, you at beauty pageants, you at all the things. I was at all of those things. And I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anything other than my husband and my children. And when my husband left, I was crushed. And when my children left, I didn't really know what to do. And so I was like, Lord, you're going to have to help Shakema find Shakema so that I don't have to make my children my life. And my life is not over when they leave. And I don't need to be in their business when they leave. Now, if something is wrong and there are things that they need from me, I want to be available, but I am not in their business. I've told my children, because I have a lot of people, who are younger than I am that have grandchildren or maybe older and have, oh, you're going to be so excited for grandchildren. I'll be excited when they get here, but they are not my children. I'll never supersede their parenting to establish my right to parent their children. That's their right to parent their children any way they see fit. Because when something goes wrong with their children, they're not calling me. They're going to call the parents. So you are responsible for whatever you let them do. That's your responsibility. And you have to take your hands off and allow your children to be married. Okay, I'm going to move on. He said the purpose of leaving, this is at the bottom of 151 if you're reading the book, is not to abandon all contact with the past, but rather to establish and preserve the unique oneness that marriage is designed to capture. Only in oneness can we become all God means for us to be. My husband is going to, our union, it takes us, I'm good on my own to do certain things. But because of what the Lord has shared with me about my marriage, I know for sure that I have to have a spouse to do the fullness of what God has called me to do in the earth. I'm doing my part. He said, Shakema, you'll be in your ministry. Your husband will be in his ministry. I'm doing my part. I don't even know where he is or what he's doing. I just know he's doing his part. When the two ministries meet, it will be M squared, multiplied ministry. And so that is how I keep moving. But I know that it's going to take the two of us meeting together to fulfill what God has said for us to do in the earth. Now, whether you're in ministry or not, you're your best self when you and your spouse meet each other and get together and do what God has called you. And what I need to do as a parent is I need to encourage you to lean on your spouse. I'm not coming to your rescue in finances. I'll talk, all of us in our family, we're working on our own journey for goals, for finances. We all talk about it. We all put it in the group chat, what everybody's doing, but I'm not rescuing you that you got a husband. Go to your man. Have you been to your man first? Have you went to your wife? Have you done all of that? When babies are born or the people are in the hospital, if the husband and wife don't want you in the room, you don't have any right to be there. And you can't flex and say, I'm her mom. They may not want that experience shared with anybody except the two of them. If they invite you in, that's very good. But if they choose to leave you out, don't feel a type of way. You don't have any cause to feel a type of way because they are now in a committed covenant relationship that you are not a part of. They now have the right to invite you into whatever space they deem necessary. I always say this too. When you get married, one of the things that most married couples, especially young ones, and then young ones with children face are holidays. Oh, I go to my mom's for Christmas. Well, no, baby, now you got to discuss with your husband where y'all are going for Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever the case may be, because you're no longer married to yourself. You're not with you with him. And it has to work out for everybody. Again, this is my non-negotiables. These are my non-negotiables. Let's come to the table and figure out what we leaving with together. Because I don't get to say we're going to my parents' house and we're not going to your parents' house. When I was married, we were at my in-laws. We did not go to my families. They did not allow it. It was not what they wanted. And there was never a courageous conversation that said, we're going to both. Or we're going to come to y'all first and we're going to them second. Or we're going to stop by theirs for lunch and we're going to see y'all at dinner. That conversation never happened. And if somebody does not have that courageous conversation, because he talks about that in the book, you have to, as the spouse, as the husband, as the wife, you have to set your parents in order and straight as to where your wife stands and where they stand. And that does not have to be done rudely. It does not have to be done with an attitude. It does not have to be done in offense. What you need to do is set and establish, this is me and my wife's decision. We appreciate your counsel. We thank you so much for all that you've done, raising us to be the best we could be, but we are there now. And so what we're going to do is what works out best for us. We're going to do what works out best for our family. What we're going to do is what works out best to keep the peace in our home, because whether they go along with it or not, eventually it's going to get to a point where they're going to blow. They've shoved it down long enough. I don't want to go over here. I know that there was an issue with our kids when we had smaller kids. We were always expected to come and stay for the holidays. And my kids, because we lived far away, we would have to leave all of our stuff at home. And then we would be able to just pack one or two gifts in the car to put under the tree for our kids to open on the holiday. And, there were other cousins and they would have all their stuff and we wouldn't have any of our stuff, just one or two little presents. And my kids are like, is this what it is? And so I finally had to have a conversation and I said, we will not go on another Christmas morning. We will not. We can go on the 26th, but we will not go before. That is it. My children deserve to be at their house on Christmas morning, opening up their gifts and doing their thing. Not sitting around looking at everybody else with all their mounds of stuff. And that was a conversation I had to have. It wasn't easy because the family didn't want to hear it. They eventually came around and respected what we decided, but that was it. we're not doing this because it is unfair. And what I need to have happen is I need my children to have their experience. I don't need them to have bad memories of when they were a child. No, I don't. And I'm not going to. All right, I'm going to move on. Okay, let me see what else he said in here. That was really good. He said, if you're too tightly bound to your parents, if they or your in-laws are allowed to dictate and make demands, the independent identity of your marriage that God desires will not be able to come to flower. You will always be held back, and a root of division will continue to send up weeds into your relationship. There's always going to be somebody that's upset about it. Even if they don't say it, you know, in their mannerisms, you know, in how they're just acting, you know, and when they come back with those quick retorts, you already know something is not right. You need to lovingly tell them while you are grateful for their counsel and prayers, they must give you and your spouse the space to freely make your own decisions. And here's the thing that I think, especially having grown children, because I have a 34, 28, and a 21-year-old. Those are my three oldest children, all grown, all make their own decisions and do what they want. Now, sister still lives at home. So, of course, anything about the home is my choice. But she lives here, and I try to respect her as an adult. And we were talking about something earlier about getting married. And I said, but that's why you're here now, getting all your little ducks in a row so that when your spouse comes for you, you're going to be ready. Your finances going to be ready. You're going to have your life together, all the things. And you're not going to have to keep coming back to me trying to figure out how to live this thing and do it right. So I think for parents, it's so important and vital that we train our children and raise them to become adults, not to stay big kids. Because eventually they're going to have to pay their own bills. I knew somebody one time where every month their daughter called them to pay their rent. They always had a story. And I'm like, you know what? One time, I get it. So stuff happened. We just had a really big snowstorm, and the temperatures were down in the teens. We've never had that before. And so my unit was running like crazy. I know my light bill next month is going to be way different than what it was or normally has. There might have been a time when I would have called my parent and say, hey, can you help me out? But every month there's a problem. Well, what I haven't done is taught you proper money management. And so now you're coming to me to be able to take care of your issue instead of going to your husband. But if I teach you proper money management, then when you get a husband, you're going to be very careful about your finances. You're going to know when the bills are due. You're going to know all of the things that you need to know so that you're not having to come to me to bail you out of this problem again. Okay. Courage and clarity must be gently employed to break your marriage free from any unhealthy attachments. The other thing that they said about unhealthy attachments, it could be parents, but it could also be exes. There are some unhealthy relationships, especially when you have blended families, because you always have an ex trying to usurp the authority of your new spouse. When you marry that new person, you have left that old person and you are now cleaved to that wife. We are one unit. What I say, they say. What I think, they think. If my wife can't have any conversation, I can't marry a man that can't say something to my children, that can't discipline my children. Now, of course, I have grown children, so that will not be the case. But when I was younger and wanted to remarry, I would never marry a man that I didn't trust with my children. So if you have that situation, your allegiance is always with your spouse, always with your spouse. And there may need to be a sit down at the table. I remember for a very long time, my ex-husband and I, we had a rule. And the rule was we're not playing boyfriend and girlfriend with our kids. If you're not married or engaged to be married, we're not doing any introductions. Nobody is going to know nobody because it may not work out. And I remember him getting in a situation and he wanted to take my children on an outing. And I said, it will not happen. It will not. Period. The end. Nope. Well, I did not get favorable feedback from that, but this is the agreement we made. You and I made this agreement about our children. You and I, not you and her. These are not her children. Now, this is prior to marriage. When I found out they were married, because I didn't find that out for a long time. When I found out they were married, and I only found out by happenstance, it wasn't because he told me. When you show up at your ex-wife's house with your new wedding ring on, something is amiss. And when I say, are you married? Oh, no. This is, no. Lies you tell. But when I found out they were married, then I said, very good. Okay, this is what we agreed to. So now y'all come to the table and I'll come to the table. My sister was there with me because I didn't have a man. My sister was there. We'll come to the table and we'll just sit down. And now we're coming up with all the ground rules for everybody. Because I don't want you to be unhappy in your situation trying to deal with me because I don't want to let go. Honey, you have been let go. But we do need to establish for everybody what the deal is. Well, that didn't go very well for me. Not everybody wanted to be involved. And so I said, very good. You don't have to be involved. And for the last 12, 13 years, there has been no involvement. And that's fine. That's your loss. I have amazing children. They're amazing human beings. And you lose for not knowing them. But again, once I figured out he was married, I moved myself out of the situation. We only have communication where our children are concerned. They each have their own cell phone. When they were too young to have a cell phone, I installed a home phone so that the kids could have an opportunity to speak to their dad. And I would not be accused of trying to be in the middle of that. I never wanted him to have to fight with his home about anything about me. Now, again, I'm not trying to make myself perfect, but what I am telling you is I did some forethinking and put in some work about this because I don't want anybody to suffer because of me, because I know what that feels like. So what I'm doing is I'm removing myself. I'm only going to communicate with you if the kids are ill, if there's something that needs both of our permission or whatever. Outside of that, you don't have to worry about me. So again, leaving and cleaving also includes exes. It includes ex-spouses. It includes ex-boyfriends. It excludes ex-flames. It excludes ex-friends. Anybody that is pulling you away from your union. Anybody. Okay. This is what he said, and I thought was really good. He says, any issues that are there between parents and your spouse, exes and your spouse, are more than likely not going to just dissolve. They're not going to go away. What you're going to have to do, what I'm going to have to do, is I'm going to have to set the boundaries. And we're going to have courageous conversations. The one thing I didn't want to do was sit at the table with my ex-husband and another woman and talk about my children, because that wasn't what I signed up for. But I did it because it was important for my children to see that their dad had moved on and mom was fine. I was fine with the movement. You cleave over there, honey. Live your best life. Do all the things that y'all need to do together. Again, that wasn't seen favorably on my part, and I just backed out. Even to this day, both my children have their own cell phones. They can talk to their dad whenever he deems it necessary. Very rarely do I have to have any conversations. And we just established those boundaries because that was just most beneficial for everybody. Because I do understand covenant, and I do not want to be involved in anybody else's. I want my own. Okay. Your greater loyalty has to shift from anybody, parents specifically, to your spouse. All right. We're going to move on. Okay. Last thing I'm going to say. Well, this was good. He said, it is not unusual for couples, even Christian couples, to think that they know better than God and ignore his purpose for their union or their roles as he designed. Applying Genesis 2:24 seems too foreign or difficult for them. So they settle for worldly thinking and neglect the leaving and cleaving God intended. They may sacrifice the oneness and strength of the most ultimate relationship of their lives to please others who are not a part of them. They don't realize that the more unified their marriage, the more fulfilled and stronger they will be to handle every other role and responsibility in their lives. You have spouses that will move next door to their in-laws. You have spouses that will move into their in-laws' houses. You just all kinds of things. You have spouses every day they're at their mother's house, or every day they're at their parents' house. They ain't never home when their husband comes because they're at their parent house. Like, you gotta leave and cleave. I'm not saying totally disregard the relationship, but you don't live here anymore. You do not live here anymore. Please move out. Please go to your husband's house. Please stay over there. My daughter was here this weekend. She lives in California, and we're, of course, on the East Coast. She's on the West Coast. We're as far as we can be from each other. And I had cooked a meal on Sunday, and she was like, "Can I just move back home for this?" No, ma'am. You just have to learn how to do it at your house for your man. That's what you got to do. No, you cannot move in here trying to eat up all my food. You have a husband. All right. He said this, and I wanted to read this, and then I'm going to the dare. It is extremely hard, of course, when your pursuit of oneness is basically one-sided. Your spouse may not currently be interested in recapturing the unity and purpose in your marriage that God printed on his DNA. Even if there is a measure of desire on their part, the divisive issues between the two of you may be nowhere close to being resolved. But by praying for and prioritizing your mate above other loyalties, by protecting your oneness as a guarded treasure, your marriage over time can begin to enjoy the majesty of unity that God intended. His decision to make you one in marriage was intentional, beautiful, eternal, and can make anything possible. So for tomorrow, day 31, we're on the downswing now, y'all. Day 31, your dare. Is there a leaving issue with your parents or someone else you haven't been brave enough to conquer yet? Confess it to your spouse today and resolve to make it right. The oneness of your marriage is dependent upon it. Follow this with a commandment. Follow this with a commitment to your spouse and to God to make your marriage the top priority over every other human relationship. So tomorrow you're paying attention to the relationships in your life and how they stack up comparative to your marriage. If any other relationship is of more import, then you're going to confess that to your spouse, and then you're going to make that right. Sometimes you got to block, you got to hide, you got to delete. I get it. Y'all been homies since y'all was in third grade. But listen, those intentions are not pure, and you know it. And so what you need to do is cut that short. It doesn't mean that you devalue the person. It just means I value my marriage more than I value what could potentially break up my marriage. So this has nothing to do with you as a person. This has to do with my husband as a person. And I need to be committed. I need to be loyal. I need to be eyes focused. I need to be attention here. And this is a distraction for me. So I cannot, no, I cannot, no, I will not, no, I am not, and no, I ain't. All of that. Anywho, you guys, there it is, day 31. I'm rooting for you. I hope you're rooting for you. You may or you may not, but I am rooting for you. I'm rooting for your marriage. I love marriage. I love the institution of it. I love everything about it. I love the fact that God trusts us with it, and I want you to do well. So there it is. I'm going to go. I've got to do some projects in the house. We've already been doing projects in the house, but I got a few more to do. And yeah, so there it is, guys. Thanks so much. If you liked the video, thumb it up, share the video, subscribe, follow whichever platform you're on, do the things that need doing. And we appreciate you so very much. We will be back here tomorrow night for day 31 to review. And we're moving into day 32, which is love meets intimate needs. That's day 32. Remember, if you want to be a part of the closed discussion, if you're a lady, please go to send me an email, firstloveministriesswilson@gmail.com, to get a link to meet. And I will mention it again tomorrow night. If anybody wants to do that, I'll try to remember to post it on my Facebook and Instagram. If I can remember, I'll try to post it. And if you don't feel like you need that, that's more than perfectly fine. But I like to offer that just in case. Alrighty, you guys, I got to go plant some starts because it's getting to be garden season and I don't want to miss anything about it. I love you guys, and I will see you all tomorrow night. Bye now. Bye, everybody.